Lately I've been thinking about this life and how it brought me here. Staring at this man in the mirror, I see him often here. Wipe my tears, only if you knew what I was going through. Only if you walked it in my shoes. Certain things don't like to talk about, but I'll always remember. The chaos in my mind turned my heart out in November. I'm surrounded by too many doors, not sure which way I entered, but I'm rocking with my...
Welcome to the Message Hope podcast, where the hope stands for hearing other people's experience. My name is Adam.
My name is Mike, and today in the show we have a gentleman. He's got 19 years clean. We've already had his significant other on the show, and that day when she came, we asked her to hit him up, and he said yes, and now he's here. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the show, Benny.
Yep. Thank you guys for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Actually, really great. I really appreciate you guys allowing me to come here and share a message.
Yeah, absolutely. We're grateful that you're willing to come down here and do the podcast, right? And just for all of our listeners, we don't pay nobody to come out, right? We don't have any special requests where we bring you a bag of chips and breakfast and all that stuff for you to come out here. Anybody that comes on the podcast is all free will and something that they want to do to be of service. So yeah, thank you for coming out and making that drive this morning. Yeah.
All right, Benny. Well, let us get to know you a little bit. Where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up?
Let's see. I was actually born in Corcoran, California, and how I ended up, I actually moved to El Monte when I was about 6 years old. My mom moved out to El Monte from Corcoran. She left my father. Actually, my father left her, and she moved out here. And then I was born, actually raised in El Monte. You know, I went to all the schools there, and actually, what I really remember is moving into this area in El Monte where I started hanging around with a lot of people that were using drugs, were in that lifestyle, and for some reason it just captured my attention. And I think the earliest that I can remember using drugs was about 12 years old. Yeah.
Okay, so did your mom work a lot? Was it?
Unfortunately, my mom had some kind of, she had a low blood pressure. I remember as a kid, 6, 7, 8 years old, my mom would pass out in front of us. And, I had this fear of losing my mom. I was the oldest. There's 3 of us, me and my brother and my sister being the youngest. And I remember my mom passing out in front of us a lot. And, I had to man up. At 6, 7, 8 years old, trying to pull my mom up onto the bed and asking her, please, Mom, wake up, please, and she would wake up, and I would ask her what went wrong, and she just said, it was just something that would happen every once in a while. And as we got older, I started realizing that, she had a low blood pressure and she was really sick. So we grew up on food stamps. Mm-hmm. We grew up on, food stamps, beans, rice, in the neighborhood, poor. It was one of those things where I shopped at Zodi's where everybody else shopped at Miller's Outpost, and, it was kind of rough because I, got made fun at school and stuff. So I remember at about the age of 13, somewhere around there, I went to work at the swap meet. And I was telling somebody the other day that I grew up that way. I was working all summer while everybody else was partying, right. Going to the river, going to the mountains, doing these things. And I was at a freaking swap meet selling paletas, Mexican ice cream, with a little bell, bling, 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 and I'd come home on the weekends and I'd give my mom my money. She would take my money and I'd be upset with her. I'd be like, why are you taking my money? Mm-hmm. I earned this. I wanted to go party. I wanted to go drink. I'm 13, 14, 15 years old during this time, and I want to drink and I want to go smoke pot and I want to do meth and I want to do all these drugs, right? And so she took my money, I would go out and steal. Right. And I didn't know why she was taking my money. I really didn't know. And then right before school started, 1 week before school, she'd break out the money and she'd say, here's $100, here's $200, go buy yourself your clothes. And I would actually start shopping at Miller's Outpost. Mm-hmm. And so now I was part of that what I wanted to be.
Right.
You know, I'm shopping at Zodi's, Pick and Save, you know, back then. And now I'm shopping at Miller's Outpost. So it gave me a little bit of comfort, you know, and I started hanging around with the homies, and we started doing more drugs. But yeah, that's pretty much my lifestyle as a child growing up. And then my mom, you know, she hooked up with she was alone, and she made the best choice. My mom wasn't a bad person, and I've heard people say, you know, my mom was my mom and my dad. I don't see it that way. My mom was my mom.
Yeah.
My dad was absent. You know, that's just the bottom line. You know, I didn't have that father figure that took me to baseball games and football games and threw the ball with me and corrected me and taught me how to treat a lady. You know what I mean? I learned that from the homies, the streets, you know, right there. And so I cannot say that my mom was my mom and my dad. My mom was my mom.
Yeah.
And she was very respectful. She was a lovely person. She didn't do drugs. She didn't drink. She had a problem. And I think, you know, looking back at it, she had a problem with her picker. She picked always the wrong dude. And every dude that she picked ended up being disrespectful to her. And that's when me and my brother came in and we started handling business, you know.
Right.
And then we were very aggressive. We were very violent. And I never knew where that came from. And as we're talking right now, I'm probably thinking back. You know, I think that back then I thought I was given the wrong hand. You know what I mean? And I was very angry.
Yeah.
I was very aggressive. I was violent. And it took me down the wrong path. You know, I think my heart hardened a lot back then. So yeah, you know, and you know, I was raised in the neighborhood, and I was introduced to what I like to call my favorite woman in the world at the time, heroin.
Yep.
How old were you then?
I was about 12, 13 years old.
Okay.
I went to this place called the Sunlight Motel in Almani. And I remember I'm there, I'm 13 years old, I'm hanging around with these dudes that are 18, 19, 20. And I see them mixing something in, you know, in a spoon, and it's got a little tan color to it. And I'm wondering, what is that? And old boy turns around and goes, "You want to taste?" I said, "Sure." And I had my first taste, you know. Then I'll fast forward. It wasn't until I was like 15 years old that I went back to doing that, and I got strung out. I didn't know what strung out was. And it was all madness from there, you know, and countless of overdoses. Then I went to cocaine and heroin, you know, speedballs and, you know, overdoses left and right. And, you know, I didn't know what an overdose was. You know, I'd wake up, what's going on, you know, either in the bathtub with ice under, you know, or, you know, somebody rubbing on my chest or somebody hitting me with another dose to wake me up. And, you know, I just continued that path. And during that path, my mom was getting worse. She was getting worse. Her health was deteriorating. And, you know, I would always go back home. You know, now I'm in the streets, running the streets, Garvey. You know, I'm out there with running in the streets with prostitutes. You know, partying with them and stuff. But I will always make my way back home to check up on my mom. And every time I would make my way back home, somebody was getting an ass beaten. And it was her boyfriend. Whatever boyfriend she had at the time, he was getting his ass beat because I didn't like the way he was treating her. So, bam. So I met this one chick. At this time, I'm still not going to prison. At this time, I'm just doing a little bit. I'm like 18 years old. I went to LA County Jail. I get out, and I met this chick. Actually, I met her when I was 15, but we were back and forth. And she beat me by like 10 years, right? So I think I'm 18 years old, and she's 28. And she was a prostitute, right? And I thought I was going to save her, you know? And, you know, we ended up hooking up and stuff, and we ended up overdosing together, both of us, back, you know, left and right, just doing drugs and hotels and stuff like that. Well, anyway, she invites me to go to Tacoma, Washington. We go up there with her mom to go visit her brother, and we took a little issue with us, right? And we're doing our issues all the way up there, and on the way back, we're running out.
Yeah.
And it's not getting good. It's getting bad. I got the sweats, I'm shaking, I'm not feeling well. And sorry. Just sorry, give me a second.
That's fine.
We're in the back of this El Camino, and we're on our way home, and I start crying. And I remember she tells me, my girlfriend at the time, she goes, "Why are you crying?" I said, "Something's not right. Something's not right. Something doesn't feel good." I go, "We got to get home." She goes, "It's just, it's just the dope. You're dope sick. Don't worry. When we get back, it's going to be okay." I'm like, "Nah, something's not right." So we pull up to my mom's. We get to El Monte. We pull up to my mom's pad. I get off. I run to the house. I knock on the door, and no answer. And I speak Spanish and English, but I'm not really good. Back then, I wasn't good with my Spanish. I knew a lot, but not all the words. And this lady comes out next door. She goes, "Mijo, who are you looking for?" In Spanish. And I'm like, "I'm looking for my mom." She goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, mijo, falleció." I go, okay. Tell her that when, she gets back that her son came looking for her. She goes, "No, mijo, falleció." I'm like, okay, yeah, tell her when I didn't know what that word meant. Mm-hmm. And she tells me, "Mijo, murió." She died. My whole world just fell apart. It's been so many years that it still hurts me. The guilt that I was a dope fiend, and I was traveling, and I wasn't taking care of my mom, and she died because of me. That was my guilt. Mm-hmm. The shame that I'm knocking on the door, a dope fiend, and I wasn't there for my mom. It tore me apart. The hate that was already in, I have a heart. Remember I said I have a hardened heart. I have so much hate, and now it just increased tenfold. Mm-hmm. And us addicts, right? We got to blame somebody.
Yeah.
I got to blame somebody, so I'm blaming God.
Yeah.
How dare you? Mm-hmm. You took away somebody that's so beautiful, so wonderful, so great. I mean, this woman, when I had hard times in the street, I would come home and I would rest my head on her lap, and she would, rub my head and tell me, "Mijo, it's going to be okay." And I didn't have her there no more. She wasn't there no more. How could have God done something so cruel to a beautiful woman, and he left somebody that's not worth living alive, which is me? Mm-hmm. That's how I seen it.
Right.
Yeah. I was like, how can you do this? So I go down the street, and I knock on the door, and my brother's there. Now he's about 16 years old. He's 2 years younger than me. And I'm like, "Hey, And he was like, "Yeah, I know." But remember, everybody handles death different, right? I'm losing my shit. I'm losing my mind. I'm blaming everybody. I hate everybody right now. And he answers the door, and he goes, "Yeah, I know." And he wasn't crying. So I remember grabbing him from his throat, slamming him against the wall in his own pad, dropped him, and I was just beating him. I said, "You're going to cry." And he's like, "No, I'm not." And I beat him to a pulp. I got up, and I took off. And that's when I really believe that my addiction, my disease, multiplied tenfold. Yeah. My rational thinking was out the door. I had a hardened heart with no way of thinking correctly. The chick that I had, I told her either you go with me or you kick rocks, but we're gonna do some stuff. And I started robbing and stealing and committing crimes and just, you know, jacking people on the street where everybody was just, I didn't care.
Yeah.
I think what I really wanted, I wanted somebody to kill me.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. I attacked the biggest person. I'm not a big person. I stand 5 feet 5 inches tall. That's it. And at the time, I was weighing about 95 pounds. And I was sitting there picking fights with the biggest clowns, you know, in the room, with biggest dudes in the street. And I was hoping that somebody would just take me, and they wouldn't. They wouldn't. And I was more angry. And long story short, my family came because my sister was gone. She was only like 15 at the time. And so my aunts and my uncles, I guess they came. They picked up my sister. My mom had 2 vehicles. They took one of them. They left me one of them. We said our goodbyes. I was supposed to go to the funeral, and I didn't because I was in my addiction. And there goes some more shame. There goes some more guilt. I'm hating myself. I really hating myself, and I was doing things that were either going to take my life or I was going to end up in prison for life. Something was going to happen. And I knew I was going down this rabbit hole, and I didn't care. I didn't care because what had happened was the most important person in my life was taken away from me. Remember, she wasn't my mom. She wasn't my dad. She was just my mom. She wasn't both. She was just my mom. And I looked up to her. You know, back then on welfare, 3 kids with high blood pressure, always passing out, doing the best that you can, raising your kids the best that you can. I mean, I looked at this woman as the best woman in the world, and she was taken from me. I went to look for her boyfriend. I couldn't find him. Luckily, I didn't, because in my mind, I was already set that I was going to kill him. Right. So then I just went on a rampage, and I remember this is the first time I get busted. The second time I get busted. So we end up going in Almani, and we stole one vehicle, and we jumped in the car. We had somebody in TJ that we were going to sell these cars to. So we jump in one of the cars, right? And I remember I'm a junkie. I'm shooting up dope, and I have enough for me. You know, I'm hanging around with these other people. They're doing meth, and you know, back then it wasn't even meth. It was what's that peanut butter stuff, whatever it was. And you know, I'm hanging around with these guys, and we take one vehicle, and then we go to San Bernardino. We steal another vehicle here, and then we go further up. I think before San Diego, and we steal another vehicle. So we got 3 vehicles, right? And we're headed to TJ, right? And we're gonna sell the vehicles over there on the other side of the border. And I'm shooting up dope on the way up there, and we have this one chick with us. She's a blow-it, right? She's sitting in the back car, throwing up, screaming, I'm sick, man. I'm like, shut this chick up, man. And anyways, we're on the way, and we're almost right there, you know, at the border, like a mile away, you know, where it says you're gonna be crossing Mexico, right? And we pull over, you know. I'm like, fuck this. We pull over. I'm driving. I pull over. My road dog at the time, Eddie, he's sitting in a shotgun. The chick's in the back, and I go get her off the fucking car. We leave her on the side of the fucking road. I'm not going through TJ with this chick. And there's 2 cars behind us that are going to go with us too. So the chick gets off, right? She's screaming at me, cussing me out. I'm like, get the hell out of here. So she gets off the car. She gets in the other vehicle. And I look at it, I go, you ready? He goes, yeah, we're ready. So we cross in the border, and, you know, and they got the checkpoint, and they're, you know, the waving, the cars come by. And I have a screwdriver with a with a shirt, over the screwdriver, right? And his window, my crimey's window, the passenger's window, it's blown out. It's broken. It's shattered. And, you know, back then, you know, I guess we weren't looking at all this stuff, and I'm driving, And they're going, come on, let's go. And we're almost there. And I go, Eddie, we're there. And I turn over, and he's not in the car no more. They yanked him out of the fucking window, right? They yank him out, and I look, and I go to turn around to gun it, and there's a gun in my head. Turn off the car. I'm like, fuck. He goes, turn off the fucking car. And I'm like, oh, man. And I turn off the switch. They throw us over to the other side.
So you made it over?
Well, not really, because they have these trailers on the side, right? So they pull the car over. The Mexicans, I guess the Federal, whoever they are, they got us. They put us in this trailer. They take out the pot, a little bit of heroin, booze that we had in the back of the car, and a bunch of stolen radios that we had. And I shit you not, I'm not making this up. The guy's like sitting in front of us. He goes, look, you guys got a choice. We'll send you to TJ where they're going to rape you guys. You know, literally, he was just trying to scare us. They're going to do this to you guys. They're going to beat you up. You guys are not going to eat. Or I'll send you back to America, you know. And I'm like, oh, shit. And then he goes, I'll give you until the morning to think about it. As he's saying this, he's rolling a joint. He's literally rolling a joint that my crimey had, and he's smoking it, and he's telling him, man, you don't even got good taste in weed. And I'm like, oh, man. All the stories that I heard were literally coming true. Long story short, they send us over to the other side. CHP and feds, they get us. They send us back to Almani. I plead, what do you call it, receiving stolen property, but I already had a bunch of cases. And so they send me to the joint. My crimey, he's not from here, so they send him to the feds. So I did some time.
Your first time in prison?
My first time in prison.
How old were you then?
26.
26?
Yeah.
Okay. Started a little late then.
Started a little late. No, I think it was like, no, I got out when I was 26. I think I was 23.
Oh, okay.
I was 23. So, you know, cool, right?
Yeah.
And I get out. And it's going to be different this time. Mm-hmm. Nah, nothing changed. I went right back to, what do you call it? With the thought of still, you know, that I didn't have anybody in my life. Remember, now my sister lives in Corcoran with my grandmother. She moved, you know, when my mom passed away, she moved out there. And my brother, he moved out there too. So now I'm running the streets in Almani, and then my crimey, his brother gets a hold of me and goes, just come down to Pomona. So I'm thinking, okay, cool. You know, I'm going to change playgrounds, right? It's going to be different. You know, you've heard that, right? Change playgrounds, playmates, and play toys, right? No, because the story is true. If I change playgrounds, playmates, and play toys, I also have to change me.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and if nothing changes, nothing changes. And, you know, that story, wherever I go, wherever I'm at, I got to take me with me.
Yeah, there you are.
There I am. So my behavior, my stinking thinking, my anger, my shame, my guilt, they're still coming along with me. So I end up in Pomona, you know. And I violate. No, I'm sorry. I end up in Pomona and I start running the streets again. I didn't know nobody there, but I knew the behavior.
Yeah.
And so I see one dude nodding. I'm like, hey, what's up? How you doing? You know? And next thing you know, I'm off and running again. So there's a time within where I'm in Pomona that somebody introduced me to meth. Not introduced me to meth, but introduced me to how to do meth in a different way.
Yeah.
So now I'm loading up a syringe with syrup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and I was like, wow, what is this? And so I'm off and running. But I never left the heroin because I needed to come down because it was too much for me. So now I have 2 addictions. I'm running with these 2 addictions, and my the crime, the anger, the violence just intensified.
Yeah.
Like it got worse. It got worse. And believe it or not, I was out for 10 more years before I got arrested again. So I'm running around in Pomona for 10 years,
Damn.
not getting caught. And I'm thinking, what a blessing, right? You're on my side now, right, God? You're on my side now. And, I'm running the streets, I'm committing crimes, and I'm homeless. But not just homeless, like really homeless. My brother's, my crimey is my brother's brother-in-law. And they have a house in Pomona, and I can stay there. I just have to follow a couple rules. Mm-hmm. Get a job, don't get loaded, and don't commit any crimes or bring any trouble to the house. I couldn't do any of them.
Yeah.
I couldn't. So I decided to go 2 blocks over and live on the side of the freeway in a tent, in a bush. Carved out a bush and put a tent in there, and I made it my home. And every 3 or 4 months, I would go to that house, and the lady, my brother's mother-in-law, would come out and tell me, "You don't want to change your life? You don't want anything better?" And I would be like, "No." Mm-hmm. She would come on in. She let me take a shower, right? Give me my new clothes that I left there, the old ones. She'd wash them. Give me a pack of cigarettes, make me a lunch bag. I'd walk outside, and she would tell me, I hope to see you again. The streets are going to eat you up. And I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I jump on my 3-wheeler that was parked in her yard with 2 other carts behind it, because that's the kind of lifestyle I was living, right?
Yeah.
And I had a 3-wheeler with 2 carts on it and Christmas lights on them. And, that's the kind of life. I mean, at night, I can literally land a jumbo jet down the street because that you could see me coming, right? And it was one of those, it was just a lifestyle that, believe it or not, I got used to.
Right.
That even now, with 19 years clean, when I'm driving down the street, I'll look at something and I'll even, I've done it with Gina. I'm going down the street and I'm like, look, for free, and she's like, what are you talking about? Because it's still there. Mm-hmm. It's still there. like I want to go dumpster dive. Mm-hmm. I want to go do these things. Mm-hmm. Because the behavior was there for so long. So anyways, I'm doing these things and I'm living on the side of the freeway. And about the 10-year mark, I'm strung out really bad. And I see this guy on the side of the freeway. I live on one side, right? And this guy's on the other side of the freeway, and he's selling flowers.
He's homeless too?
No.
He's just selling
those, the guys that sell flowers on the side of the freeway. And I'm like, there's got to be money over there.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to do a come up. And so I go on the side of the freeway where he's at. He's way over here. And I go deeper in, and I see that he has this leather jacket there, right? And I'm like, come up, the Connect. Boom, I put it in my cart, and I take off. As I'm further down the street, I pull over and I check the jacket. There's $100 in there. I'm like, wow, it just came up. So I guess this guy's looking for his jacket. He's seen me come out of there. He's looking for his jacket. He's looking for everything. And let me pause there. The night before, it was raining. I'll go back there because I just jumped. So the night before, it's raining, and I'm dope sick again. Always dope sick. And I'm with one of my crimies, and he's in a parking lot waiting for the Connect. And it's raining. And I'm sitting on the curb, and it's raining. It's pouring. And I have a moment, that clarity where you're like, what the heck? And I look at my pants, and the water is hitting my pants, and like mud's coming from the pants, and I feel the rain hitting my shirt and everything, and I can see how skinny I am, and I'm like, and I look at my shoes and my feet hurt, and I'm afraid if I take my shoes off and the socks that I'm gonna peel the skin off. Like that's how bad I was.
Yep.
I mean, I don't like looking at myself that much because it's painful.
Yeah.
And I start crying. And I said, God, again, I have to blame somebody, right? I'm God, why have you done this to me? Like why? Like I used to be a good dress. I mean, why have you done this to me? And I didn't get an answer. I didn't get an answer. And I remember my crimey comes. He goes, let's do this. I got it. And I'm wiping my face. And he looks through the rain. He goes, are you crying? I go, yeah. He goes, what the fuck are you crying for? I'm like, man, aren't you tired? He goes, shut the fuck. Stop. I remember he told me, stop being a bitch. And I go, all right. And we went back, and I used to call it, you know,
yeah.
and we went and did the nasty. That's what I used to call it. You know, I shot up some dope. I call it doing the nasty, right? And so now, fast forward the next day, stops raining. I see this cat, right? And I take his leather jacket down the street, $100, call the Connect. I do an issue. I fill up the syringe, you know, just in case, have it fully loaded for the next shot. And I see my crimey, and I go, hey, Robert. He goes, what's up? I said, just came up. And we're on the other side of the freeway, and there's an Arco. There's an Arco, and there's a Jack in a Box. Come to think of it, I did get arrested at an Arco. Anyways, and there's a bush dividing the sidewalk and the Arco and the Jack in a Box. And me and my crimey were on our bikes, and we're headed to my pad, which is the side of the freeway, and dude jumps over a bush, the guy that I took the money from, and he tackles me. And I get up to start, chunk him with him, and his brother, I guess that's his brother, jumps, and now they both got me. And the syringe falls, and it hits right there. It's fully loaded. I have some change, some money, and I have more dope on me. And the cop, and my crimey ain't doing nothing. I'm like, hey, and he's just sitting there shocked looking at me. I'm like, and the cops show up, and they arrest me. So, I end up going back to prison 10 years later. And I look at it now, with my recovery and stuff, I look at it that God did answer. He answered me.
Right.
I why are you doing this? Help me. And he answered me.
Yeah.
Not how I wanted him to answer me.
Right.
I wanted the sky to open up and angels come down and, that song and I wanted all that. And he answered me the way he wanted to answer me. And that's where I started learning that I'm not God. I may think I am once in a while, but I'm not. And what a blessing that I got arrested. And there I go back again, and I did a little bit of time again. And I was in this time, the first time I was in Susanville, and this time they sent me to Soledad. And I get out, and I parole with a diabetic. Fuck. It just happens that way. And next thing you know, I don't even know LA that good, but I'm in San Julian, I think. And I meet somebody I haven't seen in 15, 20 years, and I cop some dope from him, and I end up doing another issue. Bam. So 2 days later, I end up going seeing my parole officer. He's going to violate me. I tell him, do what you got to do. Look, this is who I am. This is what I do, And again, God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. Like, this parole officer goes, he's a dick, right? You know, they're all dicks, and well, that's how I see it, right? And it's like, but he had a heart or something. Something, I don't know what his part was, but he told me, shut the fuck up, sit right there, dial this number. And I dialed the number, and he goes, okay, you ready? And I answered the questions on the other side of the phone line, and it was this, you know, they were like a hub where they do assessments and stuff for treatment. And so I went down there. They made an appointment. I went down there. Great. And then they send me to this other treatment center, and I go there, and I'm scheduled. The guy comes out, and he tells me, why should I allow you to come into treatment? Now, remember, this is 19 years ago. It's a little bit different now, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I mean, you guys are supposed to take me, right? And he goes, no, tell me why I need to take you. And I told him, I'm a dope fiend, and I don't know any other way to live. And he goes, okay. He goes, are you dirty? I said, yeah, unfortunately. He goes, come back in 3 days. Now, remember, I'm homeless. You know, the lady that I went to parole at her pad, she doesn't want me there because I don't listen. So I'm homeless. And I did the best thing that I knew because, you know, being an addict, I know how to manipulate. Being an addict, I know how to take advantage, and I know how to work the system because I've been doing it my whole life. Right. So I go across the street to the GR office, and I go in there and I tell them, look, man, I'm going to treatment. They were not going to take me for 3 days. I just need a hotel voucher. And they go, okay. And they gave me a hotel voucher, and I end up, they end up sending me right back where I started. I'm on Garvey at the Victory Motel. And I'm like, fuck. Nothing but dope out there, prostitute. I mean, the whole 9 yards. And I had to lock it up for 3 days there. They were the worst and the best 3 days that I ever had. Because one, I didn't think I was going to make it. It was terrible. It was just like, man, I wanted to go out there and do drugs so bad.
Were you kicking?
No.
You hadn't been.
Yeah, I had just gotten out and did it,
okay.
you know. But the best part about it is that I knew I can do it.
Right.
Because when I walked out and I left the card on the bed and I walked into treatment that day, which I call my clean date, November 21st, 2005, is my clean date. Not the 3 days that I spent there. I don't call that my clean date. My clean date is the day that I walked into treatment. That's what I claim.
Yeah.
Because that's the day that I made a decision. That's the day that I made a decision to turn my life over. Not to me, not to the drugs, not to the homies, but just over to a process greater than me. And I walked into that treatment center with a pair of socks and the clothes that I had on. And man, what an experience. I stayed at that treatment facility for 6 months. I completed the program, and I stayed there another, I think, 16 more months. They had a sober living that they had opened up at the time. What a blessing. I wasn't going to make it, but again, the guy that was up next for the sober living there got caught with his treatment girlfriend in the bathroom. And they go, Benny, you're up next. You want it? And I was like, fuck, man. You know, for some reason, I think it was meant to be, right? And I ended up staying there.
So what do you think, like, got you through those 3 days? Like, what do you think, like, because it sounded like you were just ready to go back to prison, right? Like, fuck it, I'll do the time, right? So what was it that allowed you to muster up enough courage to say, you know what, like, these 3 days are going to be fucking hard, but I'm going to stay clean and I'm going to make it a fucking treatment?
I think that, because I had mentioned earlier, I have this shame, this guilt, but what I didn't mention was I felt alone. I didn't have anybody. And I wanted a family. I wanted a life. all these other people that I knew when I was kids, they were in college, they had families, they had everything, and I didn't have anybody, and I felt alone, and I wanted something, and I was tired. I was really tired, you know. I'm 36. I think I was 36 at the time, about 35, 36. I was tired. I didn't have anything, and I knew that I had to do it. I knew I had to do it. And so I believed, you know, I was alone and I was tired. I was lonely.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know about anybody else, but addiction for me and my lifestyle, even though I was around a lot of stuff, I was always alone. I felt lonely.
Yeah.
I felt lonely. I felt, yeah, I've heard people say the little boy in me. I don't know about that. I just feel that I was alone and I was scared. Maybe that is a little boy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was alone. I didn't have my mommy. I didn't have my brother, my sister. Remember, this whole time, I don't have a family. I'm running amok. So anyways, I did treatment. And it's part of my story. When I was in treatment, they would do these process groups, and they would ask, what is it that you want from recovery? What is it that you want from life? What is it that you really want? And I remember in a group I was crying, and I said, I want a family. I want a family. I want to be respectful. I want to be responsible. I want to be a man. So I started dating somebody while I was in the sober living. I moved in with her. She had 3 children. And about a year later, I had my son. Well, about a year later, a year or something, I had my son. That was, man, one of the most beautiful things that you can ever witness is the birth of your child. It just blew my mind. Again, because I'm a big baby. I cry a lot. I cry a lot. I think that recovery did that. Because before that, I never cried. And when my son was born, I couldn't stop crying. So, you know, I lived with this individual, and I made her kids my kids. And we had a really good life. Up in about 6 years, she tells me, you got to put a ring on this. And so I did. And we got married. And I raised the kids, and I did recovery, went to meetings, and but before my son was born, I was going to school, and I was saying this earlier. I didn't feel my disease was telling me I wasn't good enough, so I wanted to quit school. I went to school to become a drug and alcohol counselor, and she supported me in this. She goes, no, you're smart enough. You can do it. And so I finished school. I went back to the treatment facility that I was in, and I interned there, right? And so as we moving along, and I'm living, you know, with my wife at the time, I end up again. My son was born, and now I'm working there, and I became a counselor there. And about 3 years later, I ended up becoming a supervisor there, right? And so we're doing good, man. We're doing good. I'm going to meetings. I'm working on self. I don't hate myself that much no more, you know, because there's always still that peace. I don't know about anybody else. For me, I still hated myself.
Yeah.
You know, Mother's Day would come along, and I hated myself.
Yeah.
You know, so I moved along and it got better. We got married, and then next thing you know, I got hit one day, not too long ago, and things weren't going right for a while. And I kind of I asked, "Is there somebody else?" And there was a pause, I remember. And she said, yeah, I'm talking to somebody. And that was the second worst. I think the second death. The first death was my mom, and the second death was a betrayal. How I seen it. And that was very chaotic. I don't think I thought about getting loaded. I thought about doing dumb things. I thought about revenge. I thought about this. I thought about that. And, you know, I want to say something that I attend meetings for my disease. And all the people that I know in the fellowship, the meetings that I attend, man, these men, they showed up out of nowhere. I didn't ask them to show up. They just showed up, you know, bam, bam, bam. Hey, what's up? And I'm like, you know, this is, and they're like, nah, come on, let's go do this. Let's go to a meeting. Let's go here. Let's go, you know. And I was, even though I didn't want to be there, I knew I had to be there. And they kept me afloat.
Yeah.
And when I wanted it, when I said that I wanted to do something stupid, they told me that's your process. And then and it's okay. They didn't tell me, hey, what the hell's wrong with you?
Right.
No, they just, hey, that's your process. You know, and I'm like, am I crazy for saying it? I don't know. I mean, we're just here to support you, man. Yeah, you know? And you know, I know I don't have time to say shout out to all these people, but they know who they are. You know, and I started, you know, getting myself more involved. I started saturating myself more in meetings and more in the fellowship and more with these people. And you know, that's my recovery, you know, that's mine and that's my process. And so I left this house and, man, divorce is very, for some, I can only speak for me, it was very mean. Aggressive. Yeah, it was just horrible. It was horrible. And you know, like the disease, you know, when you're using drugs, you say that you only hurt yourself, but you really, you hurt everybody that you love.
Yeah.
Well, this is the same process. This marriage, this divorce hurt a lot of people. It didn't just hurt me and her. There's children involved.
Yeah.
And so I had to take a look at that. You know, it says that we admitted that we were powerless over our addiction and that our lives had become unmanageable. And when we look at our lives becoming unmanageable, we look only at ourselves, but we have to look at our children's lives too. It says our lives. It just doesn't mean my life. It says my children's life were unmanageable, right? The neighbor's life was unmanageable, right? How, you know, everybody that was within my reach, their lives became unmanageable. And so I know that I wasn't the only one suffering. So then I'm still going to meetings, and then she continued in her relationship that I really don't want to get into, but she continued, and so I moved forward, and I met somebody, you know, beautiful, funny, annoying at times. No, I'm just playing. But, you know, somebody in the rooms and, you know, with some clean time as well. And that understood me a little bit. And I understand her. And we started, you know, dating. And now, you know, she's my significant other. Am I still going through some stuff over here with that marriage thing? Yes, because it's still not finalized and stuff. But the same hate that, you know, when my mom passed away, that was intensified tenfold, and then it started in my recovery. It started going away. Is the same process that happened during this marriage. Yeah. My hate, my heart was like super hardened. My hate, my anger was up there. And as this process is almost ending, I don't have that anger and hate towards her no more. It's more of it happened. Let's get through this. So my recovery is it's how much I want to listen and how much I want to participate in. And there are times, man, there are days that somebody wants to quote literature to me or tell me, let God and let go and, all these cliches. I really want to tell them, blow it out your ass, man. Today I don't want to do recovery. Today I want to feel my anger, And that's just, I don't know if that's the human part of me or my addiction part of me, or I just know that sometimes I don't want to run the program every day. Sometimes I'm human. Yeah. I'm human. I don't quote literature and, I'm not that person. What I do is I feel, right. And I'm honest. Yeah. And sometimes, somebody will tell me, hey, well, what is our literature? Fuck our literature, at the time. Yeah, I'm upset. Yeah. I'm upset, I'm human. Somebody hurt me, and then maybe an hour or half an hour, or 10 minutes or a day or 2 weeks later, I jump back on board, because I'm saturated in the fellowship. You know what I mean? I know people, and I know that the program is love, right? And we give back what was so freely given to us. I know that. I really do.
And what's crazy is like once you start to recover, right? When you first get clean, they say there's good news and there's bad news, right? The good news is you get your feelings back. The bad news is you get your feelings back. So when, like I know for me, when I hurt in recovery, it's a whole different hurt than when I hurt when I'm getting loaded, because I could shove a needle in my arm, put a pipe in my mouth, smoke a blunt, drink, right? And like, as much as it's an unhealthy coping skill, but it's a coping skill, right? It's the only coping skill I've ever had, right? Until getting clean, right? So when we get clean and we have like this spiritual awakening, it's like people are able to touch parts of us that were never touched before, right? And so like I just experienced that, right? Where it wasn't like this really long relationship, right? But it was a real deep relationship, right? Maybe it was one-sided. I don't, that's whatever, right? But
not getting into that.
Yeah, we're not going to get into that. But my point is that like I remember thinking like, why the fuck does this hurt so much? It hurts so much because like I'm no longer just a physical being, right? Like there has been a change in my spirit, right? There has been a change in my vulnerability. There has been a change where I kept everybody at a distance. Now people are able to get close to me because those walls and those barriers that I've held up for, even all the way up until now, right? Like this is the only person that I've ever really let walls down. Right? And the first thing my head said was, see, stupid? That's what the fuck you get, right? Why the fuck, like, why are you putting these walls down? Yeah. Because this is what happens, right? People hurt you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like, again, this is just my experience with this new feelings, right? Is that like letting those walls down, like allowing somebody to touch my soul and my spirit like never before. And it wasn't like betrayal, it wasn't any of that. Like I know now she did what she thought was best for her or whatever, right? But that shit fucking hurts, bro.
Yeah, it does.
It fucking hurts in a way that I've never been hurt before. Like I've had my baby's mom cheat on me when I was loaded. Like I had like, you know what I'm saying? All this betrayal. I mean, me and my baby's mom, we were just fucking everybody. But that was different. Every other breakup was different, right? By the time we broke up, I was already like, I'm already done with you anyways. You know what I'm saying? Like because of those walls and those defense mechanisms, those masks that I've been wearing my whole life and most of my recovery, right? And then I get to this real spiritual place where I'm like, oh, I'm feeling feelings I never felt before. I'm caring about you like I never cared before. Like I'm willing to, to do all these things that I've been so unwilling to do my whole fucking life. Yeah. And then the rug gets fucking pulled up under you, right? And you feel feelings, right, that you haven't felt in probably ever for me, right? I never felt feelings like this, right? Like what I learned in my step 4 and 5 is that Adam always has a switch, right? Where I could turn feelings off and I could turn them off, turn them on and turn them off really easy, right? The moment my head says fuck you, I could turn those feelings off and I have no feelings for you. Like if I do, it's anger, bitterness, and resentment, right? Correct. There is no love, care, and concern, right? And all of a sudden, like I'm trying to fucking turn this fucking switch off, right? And that motherfucker won't turn on. Right. And I can't be bitter and I can't be resentful. Right. I can't be angry. Like I'm not saying that I didn't feel those feelings. Right. But they were always like followed by remorse. They're always followed by guilt. They're followed by shame. They're followed by love. They're followed by concern. You know what I'm saying? And it hits different, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When you're clean than when you're loaded, bro.
Yeah. And you're right. But sometimes, for me, when somebody hurts me, I have to, even though I don't, I have to look back at all the people that I hurt. You know what I mean? And if I want to be forgiven, and I want to paint a different picture for self, then why can't I do it for somebody else? Yeah. But you're right. Right on. You hit the nail right with a hammer. Bam. It's just that I'm clean, and those feelings are intensified. I can't cover them up with shooting up dope. I have to go through this process, and it's painful. Right. Did I learn something from this? Yeah, that I didn't have to get loaded. I didn't have to put hands on it. I wanted to. I didn't have to go back to jail. Right. I said some stuff that, looking at it now, I wish I'd never said to her, and just out loud. Because it was disrespectful, and somebody else in the program would be seeing that. They would be like, "Wow," because we do that, right? Yeah. We're always looking at somebody, and we say we don't judge, but we do. I mean, guilty as charged. But if I'm going to work a program, I think that I need to admit that I have faults, defects, and that I fall short. 6 and 7, right? So, that's where I'm at. Now, I'm at this facility and I work and I'm a productive member of mainstream society. I'm working on a new relationship, not only with my significant other, but with my son, because now we have to, after all this had happened, now I have to, he has to learn, and I have to learn how to meet in the middle, because he's not happy with this either. And I have to respect his feelings, and I have to respect his thoughts. He's a human being that is doing much better at his age. He's 16 and a half years old, and man, I'm so proud of him, because at 16 and a half years old, I was off the hook. And I think that I raised him good. I raised him, and I think, I'm going to say it, Narcotics Anonymous has allowed me to be able to be the best father that I can, even with my defects and my shortcomings. And has allowed me to be a productive member of mainstream society, even with my defects and my shortcomings. And has allowed me to let go of the shame and the guilt for believing that my mom's death was my fault, that I could have did something different, and I probably couldn't have. Do I miss her? Every day. Do I cry for her? A lot of times. But I think I'm okay. I'm okay. As long as I keep doing what I'm doing, going to meetings. I'm trying to reconnect with my higher power. You guys asked me to do a little prayer before this, and it was kind of hard because just like I was angry at God for when my mom passed away, I became angry and bitter with God for the betrayal that happened. Well, I call it a betrayal. Maybe it was, I don't know. Because I really don't want to badmouth her. She made an error in judgment, maybe, or whatever it be. But I felt it that way. And I was angry with God again. And I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit bothered with my higher power right now. I'm trying to get back to talking to him. And, the third step says that we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And I always tell this story. Do I have enough time?
Yeah.
I tell this story that when my son was 5 years old, I took him to Legoland, right? And that's where he came. He was introduced to Legos, right? And man, Legos are expensive. Not like when I was a kid. They're expensive. So I bought him the small one because I'm like, they're expensive. So I bought him a small Legos, and we did that, right? And then ever after that, he would go to the store, and as the years passed by, I would buy him a bigger Lego, and we did a lot of Legos together, me and him. We'd open up the package, separate the stuff, look at the instructions, and me and him, man, we were Legos, right? Me and him, and 6, 7, and the Legos got bigger, 8, 9. I think he was about 9 or 10 years old, I remember. And I tell this story all the time. It was a big Lego. I think it was Spider-Man, and it was like the city and whatever. And we open up the box, and we're in the family room and big kitchen table. And I'm like, okay, son, you separate, and and he's like, Dad. I'm like, yeah, sure. And we're gonna do this. He's like, but Dad, let me say. And I go, what? He goes, Dad, I can do this. I'm like, what? He goes, I can do this by myself. My heart sank a little bit. I'm like, what do you mean you could do this by? It's me and you, bro. And he's like, I got this, Dad.
Yeah.
And I got a little sad, right? And I'm like, but Pa, this is pretty big. No, I got this. So I had to take that, and I remember I went to the kitchen, made myself a sandwich, sweet tea. I love sweet tea. And I went to the family room, and I sat on the couch, the recliner, and he started doing the Legos, and you can hear him getting frustrated. Ugh. And I'm like, you okay? And he goes, yeah, I'm okay. And he goes, and he's making all these frustrating noises that I make when I get frustrated. And I go, you okay? And he gets up and he walks through the living room and down the hallway to the bathroom, and I can hear him crying in the bathroom. I don't know why I can't do it, And I'm like, I'll get up and I go to the bathroom. Hey, you okay? And he's like, I'm okay, Dad. I'm okay. Leave me alone. So I go back and I sit down. And he comes back and he's frustrated again. And I walk over. I said, listen, son, I can help you. You don't have to go through this frustration. Let me help you. I got it, Dad. I said, okay, I'm going to be sitting right there on the couch. And when you're ready, come see me. So he goes through about 15 more minutes, frustration, the noises and stuff, and then complete silence. And I remember I can hear the footsteps. And he walks around, and I'm on my recliner. Remember, he's about 9, 10 years old. And he goes over, and he jumps on the recliner, and he lays himself on me, and he hugs me, and he tells me, Papa, will you help me? And I grab him, and I give him a kiss on his cheek, and I tell him, I will always help you, son. That's what I'm here for. And we get up, and I walk him over, and I show him there's 2 of them. I remember there's 2 of them. I go, this one has a little bump on it. It's on the next page, Papa. He goes, this one right here. And he hugs me. He says, thank you. And I go, you know what? I'm going to be there when you need me again. How many times did we shove a needle in our arm and say, I got this? How many times do we pick up a line, do a line, and say, I got this? How many times have we said, I got this, when all you had to say is, Papa, the third step, will you help me? God, will you help me? I said, I made a decision. But not only made a decision, now I'm making a choice, an action, to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand them. Loving, caring, forgiving, understanding. Those are the things that I have for my son. And in the third step, I expect that from my higher power. And so I always use that third step, that story for that third step. How many times do we make a decision but don't follow through? And when you do follow through, what do you get? Help. If I was willing to help my son that way, how much more is my God willing to help me? You know? But I tell God, I got this. I ain't got nothing. You know? He's my papa, you know? I'm my son's papa. So, you know, I always use that as a third step to describe that's what we need to do in that third step, you know, turn our will. My frustrations, my shame, my guilt, everything that I want to do this, my will, like, based off on my feelings, right? Yeah. And then my life, which is my job, my significant other, my children, anything that's attached to me, that's my life. And I got to turn it over to them. Yeah. And I think that's where I'm at right now. I'm struggling with that because, again, you know, I was a little angry with God. You know, I don't know if that's right or wrong to be able to be angry with God. You know, somebody once told me he'd rather you be angry with him and argue with him than not talk to him at all. Mm-hmm.
And I think the beautiful thing about like the program, you know, in general, right, is that like we all get to have our own personal relationship, right? No one, like, if someone would have told me how to pray, who to pray to, when to pray, what kind of relationship I should have, I don't think I would still be here. I think the openness of the third step prayer, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why it says, as we understood him, mm-hmm. right? It doesn't say we turn it over to God or we made a decision to turn our will and ours over to God. It says, as we understood him, because we all have a different understanding, a different relationship. Mm-hmm. Like, I see my relationship with God the same way you see yours. The love I have for my children, right? If my kids got what they wanted, they would have cotton candy for breakfast. They would have, you know, cereal for lunch and hot Cheetos for dinner, right? Yeah. But because I love them and I care about them, no, you guys can't eat that. We have to eat this or whatever the case may be. And then, like, even right now, like with my oldest daughter, right? Like, I feel like she's going through some changes. She's 21, right? She still lives with me. She pays her own rent. She pays her own bills. She does all that. But she still hasn't left dad's home, which I'm grateful for because she's in my home, right? Yeah. But she's been like veering off in a weird way, you know, and I'm seeing this and I'm like, okay, I got to allow her to have her own process, right? There's some lessons in her life that she needs to learn, right? For her to get to where she needs to get to in life. And that's how I feel my God looks at me. Like, there are certain things that he allows to happen to me. There are certain tragedies, like losing my mom this year, like relationships I got to lose. Like, there's some times where I got to be worried about money and bills and like, how am I going to get to work? Or like, there's just some things that I need to go through in order for me to build character. Just like my kids have to go through some things and they have to experience some pain and they have to experience some hurt. And I could sit there and try to protect them all I want, but I can't protect them from everything. No. Right. And so that's how I look at God with me, right? Is like God has a plan for me, right? Mm. He has levels for me. He has places that he wants me to go and he needs me to go. But there are certain pains, certain experience, and certain falls that I have to experience in order for me to get there. Just like when a kid starts walking, right? They're going to have to bump the table. They're going to have to fall on their face, right? Yeah. And we could go ahead and pick them, right? Oh, it's going to be, you know what I'm saying? But what does that do? That makes the baby panic even more and they cry even more, right? And so, like, sometimes, like, I know that God needs me to have my own process for me to get to the epiphany, right? The spiritual awakening at the end of that. This is why I went through that. This is why this happened to me. Because I believe, right? It's funny because Jersey Shore, the situation, right? He's in recovery, and I was watching like the family reunion, which I know it's funny, but it's true, right? And he's in recovery, and he says that like a good sailor don't become a great sailor by smooth sailing, right? And so, like, in order for me to be the man that God intended me to be, there are some big waves, some things that I need to go through in order to be prepared for whatever's next in my life. So, like, wherever this is just, I know, like, for me, people, I need to be in my process. And sometimes that process is fuck you and fuck everybody around you. Yeah. Sometimes that process is like, leave me alone today, God. Sometimes that process is like, fuck everybody. It's just what it is for me. You know what I'm saying? And then I get through that place and I'm like, all right, well, thank you, God. Like, I'm back. I love you. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you because, I think it's super important that we all have our own process with God. And there's days where I'm mad at God. There's days where I don't like what he does in my life. There's days where I'm like, I look at things like sometimes like, man, like, I do all this good and I still got to worry about this bill. Like, come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Shoot me a little something, bro.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Give me a little bit of hint of where my life is going, so I know what you're preparing me for. But
Don't work like that.
no, I guess that's where hope and faith is really grounded in.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
All right, Benny. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate
Yeah.
it. And I have one question for you before we go. If you could give somebody a piece of advice, somebody who's struggling right now, somebody who's still getting loaded and doesn't know what to do, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that to not lose hope, to look for help for either a treatment facility, go to a 12-step meeting, and hang around with people that are clean, like-minded people, and not to give up hope, man. Look for a treatment center, look for a 12-step program, get a sponsor, go to church, talk to God. There's so many resources out there for people like us. You know, we're not losers. We're not. We made mistakes, but if you look past all those mistakes, you're gonna find somebody that's beautiful, that's wonderful, that's loving, that's caring, that you know is an outgoing person. I mean, there's so much, man. Addicts are so smart. Like, man, we're so smart. We're educated. I mean, we're motivators. We're go-getters. I mean, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. The message is hope.
Thank you, Benny.
Yeah, thank you, Benny, for coming on, man. If you guys could please like, subscribe, comment, you know, share Benny's message with anybody who you feel needs to hear it, and yeah.
And if you have somebody that you feel might be a good guest on the show, you can reach out to us on Instagram. You
Which
can leave
is the message is hope podcast _ between each word.
or you can email us at themessageshope@gmail.com. We'll see you guys next week.
I just hope my time's right. Lost up in the limelight, but you'll never know unless you walked up in my shoes.
As someone who struggled with addiction in the past, how does it feel to be able to give hope to others who are still struggling now?
You know, it's such an honor to be able to hear other people's experiences of life, to see how when faced with the very thing that was sent to destroy you, kill you, and take you off forever didn't, but rather you have been given a second chance to give hope and be a light for those who are still in the dark. So don't be afraid to share your message to the world. You never know whose life you might be saving.